I have to say I can't imagine any time in my life when I thought that I would be excited for an M. Night Shyamalan movie. And yet here we were with Glass, which honestly I wasn't too excited for, because until 2 weeks ago I hadn't even seen Unbreakable and Split, which were the two previous films in this trilogy, whatever it's called. There's not really a name for it. But once I saw them, I was like, okay, like I really enjoyed Unbreakable and I really enjoyed Split, even though they were two very different films. And I was looking forward to what was coming up with Glass. And then the reviews came out from some of the critics, and I was like, wasn't good. And I was worried that maybe this was back to the Shyamalan that I've known for most of my life, that just put out straight trash. But I was really pleasantly surprised once I actually got into the theater and saw the film. And I really enjoyed most of what was there. I mean, first of all, I feel like I've seen more reviews than usual when reading this, like pointing out like, oh, well, it's not a standalone sequel, like most sequels then can at least stand on their own as a film, but this you really have to see the previous. I'm like, yeah, it's a sequel. Please see the first two films before you see this one. It's usually how it works. Because I really think you will actually lose a lot. It is certainly a self-contained story, as far as, beginning, middle, and end, and you get all that, but there's just a lot of the character development that you get out of David Dunn, Bruce Willis's character, Elijah Glass, Samuel L. Jackson's character in Unbreakable, because you don't get as much individual time with the three main characters, the other one being Kevin, by James McAvoy, who's the main antagonist of Split. You don't get a lot of one-on-one time with them. James McAvoy's character, you get the most one-on-one time with. I mean, especially David and Elijah, you don't get that much time with, so you're gonna really be missing out, I feel, on who they are as characters, and you're gonna have a lot less attachment to them if you haven't seen Unbreakable, and same with Kevin if you haven't seen Split. Plus there are some other side characters who do come back from those films who you probably just straight up have almost no idea who they are if you haven't seen those films. Additionally, this is paced very similarly to Unbreakable, and it's about superheroes, but it's obviously, at least I hope you didn't get this from the marketing, it's not the superhero movies that we're used to now. Unbreakable came out in 2000, and superhero movies were a joke back then, and this one took a very different approach. It was very slow, it was subdued, it was more really of a character piece than a superhero film. The superhero factor is very small, and it's same here. It's not about huge fights and acts of violence and super high stakes. It's more just about learning about who these characters are and how they fit into the world around them, which is supposed to be our world. Not like in Marvel, I mean, it is supposed to be Earth, but there's obviously, people with superpowers where it's a little different here, and it's like people are still confined to human bodies, but it's about certain people are able to like push their humanness to like its absolute brink, and it's just very different from all the other superheroes we have now, and so if you're going in expecting that, you're going to be disappointed. So if you see Unbreakable and you like that style, I think you'll enjoy a lot of what Shyamalan brings to the table here in Glass, because really what it felt like for me was an Unbreakable type movie, but just with Kevin Wendell Crumm as the main character instead of David, who was the main character in Unbreakable. The first act was kind of getting all the characters together in one place. Of course, Elijah is already in a mental institution and has been since the end of Unbreakable. David has been kind of doing his hero stuff, and Kevin has been kidnapping and eating more young women. Yay. And so then he kind of David discovers Kevin, and there's a little bit of an action scene, but not much, but it was enough to kind of like get me engaged. And it was nice to see all these characters back, but again, we get some of these side characters that I was really impressed we got like the same actors for, and it was really cool to see everyone together on screen. Then in the second act, things really slowed down, like a lot. And so I was expecting to kind of get uninterested here, But once all three characters come in and they're in this mental hospital, which we see in all the trailers, and I was just really interested in the kind of questions that the doctor is asking these characters, and these characters have to really reflect on who they believe they are, and all sorts of other questions that I find myself asking these characters as well. And so it was the movie was kind of reflecting what I was feeling, and so that allowed me to be continuously engaged, even though the film's pace was pretty slow. Then the final act was where things kind of fell apart for me. There's a few elements that get introduced at the end there that I thought felt really just kind of shoehorned in, and I wasn't really sure where they were coming from, and like, it wasn't like the worst thing I've seen, but it was just kind of like, what? Like, okay, like, I thought this movie was wrapping up and we're introducing something this big now, like, what? And then the movie did wrap up quickly, and I was like, so what? Like, this brought up way more questions than it did answer the questions I had from the previous hour and a half of film I've been watching. And then there's like a little twist at the end, which it felt like it was the right idea, I think, and it kind of worked. But I thought it could have been executed in some different ways that would have allowed me to enjoy the film a little bit more. But it didn't take away from my overall positive feeling on the film. I mean, I just really enjoyed seeing all these characters together. The acting performances were very strong, and everyone felt like they were these same characters, and I was engaged with them and invested in them the whole way through. And I enjoyed the story for the most part, except for a little bit at the end. And I think if you enjoy Split and Glass, you'll probably enjoy most of this movie too. If you don't like those, I wouldn't waste your time because, like I said, it's very similar to Unbreakable. I mean, if you didn't like Unbreakable, I just think it's not worth it. Even if you like Split, because it's not like Split really at all, outside of the fact that we get to see Kevin Wendell Crumm. Like, if you really like his character, like the Horde is kind of what he goes by in Glass. If you really like those characters, maybe, but I think like if you like Unbreakable, it's very similar to that. And so I'm not really sure what some of these other critics thought they were getting into when they were going to this film. But I really enjoyed it for the most part. Certainly not a perfect film, but especially considering what else is coming out in January, definitely enjoyable, and would recommend checking it out if you have interest in the other two films in this series.